NFC South Roundtable, welcome back into another live episode. We have an amazing episode back here. Before we get into it, though, you guys might be wondering, hey, well, there's only 3 out of 4 representatives. Where's TJ? TJ is doing some big things within his own respective career. We're hoping that we will see him later on in today's video, but at least for now, he's out doing big things. We are so damn proud of the big things that TJ's doing in his career, but we are going to be talking about free agency. This is day 2 of the legal tampering period, with technically the first day of free agency not kicking off till tomorrow. But each of these teams have already started to make big signings. Clay, especially the Panthers. We are going to be breaking down each team, their signings, their trades, their releases, everything that they've done. And then we're going to get the thoughts from the other creators on the panel about their respective teams. Today's video brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. We'll talk to you a little bit later about them. But fellas, before we break it down, the people haven't seen you guys in a few weeks. Let's just let them know how you're doing. Clay, let's start with you.
I'm feeling great, man. This has probably been one of the most exciting free agencies we've had as a Carolina Panthers fan in a very long time. Dan Morgan is I think he's cooking, man. I think he's doing what he said he was going to do, which was bolster up the defense, which we'll dive into here shortly. Besides the fact that Colby's Patriots decided to just swoop in and take the rug out from under our feet with
that was ice cold
Williams ordeal. So I guess like how they did against us in the Super Bowl a couple, 20 years ago, whatever it was. So, it is what it is. But I'm excited, man. I'm glad to be here and glad to be back with you guys. So let's have some fun.
Smitty, how about you? How you feeling? Your Falcons, they haven't done too much, and we'll get into it, but you don't seem to be too upset about it.
Nah, I ain't upset, man. I knew what to expect. It's just like you remember back in the day when you was little and everybody wanted McDonald's. Your mama told you we got McDonald's at home. That's how I feel right about now. I wasn't expecting too much.
So not disappointed, but just like, damn,
nah,
it could be better.
Especially now with Kirk Cousins still on the books, I couldn't expect much.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair. What do you think happens with him? Cut, trade?
From what I've heard, rumors around the radio world, he may be traded to the Browns by the end of the week. But honestly, I don't care. I go buy my Greyhound ticket to get out of Atlanta as fast as he can.
James, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Colby. Happy to be back here. Talking about some NFC South football, man. Been somewhat busy here. Obviously, the Panthers been going crazy. Falcons made a couple of honestly like some low key moves. Obviously, the Saints did some work as well, and the Bucs brought back some of their own guys and brought in a new face or two. So it's been a lot of fun to keep track of. It's obviously one of the best times of the year. So I love it.
Chris, yeah, you know what, gonna have a nice Christmas.
I got a bone to pick with you on that one, James. Let me tell you. All right.
Hey,
$30 million, homie, turned down.
Dude, I was sitting there thinking about actually today, because obviously I think it was like Rappaport was like, Godwin turned down like $30 million to not join the Patriots because he wanted to go back to the Bucs. And I was like, dude, if you told somebody that 6 years ago, like, hey, you don't want to go to New England, stay in Tampa. Like people would be like, what are you talking about? So
how much did he end up getting with you guys like per year?
66 million, 22 a year.
Yep, 22 a year.
So he turned down roughly another $8 million per year to go back with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which, you know what? I said the entire time I didn't think Chris Godwin, like, yes, he hit free agency, but like he never actually hit free agency. It was never realistic that he was going to go anywhere else other than Tampa Bay. So I wasn't disappointed, but it was one of those things where it's like, I was still holding out a little bit of hope.
Hey, dude, I don't want to hear it. The Patriots have made up for it. They have dropped so much freaking money so far in this offseason on players. It's been crazy.
James, but here's my thing. We gave you Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski, and a damn Super Bowl. You're telling me you can't give me a 28 coming off an injury, Chris Godwin? Come on, bro. I'm just asking for a bone here. That's all.
You got Carlton Davis. I mean, he used to play for the Bucs.
Hey, we finessed it from the Lions, all right?
Wow, man.
You don't get credit for that one.
Man, the hunt for a number one wide receiver continues for the Patriots, man.
The
That's
hunt
crazy.
for a number one. Hey, Cooper Kupp. I mean, maybe not even just for the Patriots, maybe for one of your respective teams. Rumors have it that Cooper Kupp is going to be released. Now, maybe this ends up being a Christian Kirk situation. You never know. It could be a Christian Kirk situation where he's released and then we find out 2 days later he's traded for a 7th round pick. Now, I think at this point, if somebody's trading for Cooper Kupp, we would have heard it by now. So more than likely, within the next couple of days, Cooper Kupp is going to be released. Something to watch for all of your respective teams. But guys, let's just go ahead and let's start breaking this down. And let's just start with the team that's probably going the craziest in the division. And Clay, I want to start with you. Your Panthers are making a lot of moves, so much that our graphics guy had to make two different graphics for the Panthers, an offensive side and a defensive side. So let's just go ahead and let's break down your offensive signings first. Oh, James, you got something.
Well, so I just saw that Hopkins signed with the Ravens for 1 year, $5 million.
Really?
$5 million to DeAndre Hopkins, Colby. Patriots couldn't do that?
You know, I'm okay with it, though. D-Hop, he's cooked. He's cooked. He couldn't even make it work with Patrick Mahomes. He's dropping wide open passes in the Super Bowl. I'm okay without him. I just thought that he was going to get a bigger deal. The Ravens are also one of those teams, kind of like the Patriots. They just keep duct taping that wide receiver position. But guys, considering we are in the midst of free agency in the legal tampering period, there are moves that might happen here league-wide with, of course, your teams too. I'm going to try to watch it as closely as possible. But fellas, if there's something I miss, just like James did, call me out on it and let's break the news live here for the people. But Clay, Go ahead and break down some of these offensive signings that you made. I mean, re-signing Andy Dalton, Tom Tremble.
Yep.
You made some big signings. Let's hear about them.
Yeah, I mean, Andy Dalton's kind of self-explanatory, right? Like you needed a backup quarterback. You know, you didn't have anybody else on the team, right? Andy Dalton's also been a great mentor to Bryce Young, right? And, you know, and Andy's one of those guys, like if he needs to step in, he's probably going to win you a game, 2, maybe 3. But of course, there's going to be those games like we saw last year against Washington that just are going to be really bad. All right, that is what you're getting out of Andy Dalton, okay? Tommy Tremble, I like it, right? I think he's still a young tight end. I think he's very versatile. I think he can also be a vertical threat. We saw a lot more of Tommy Tremble at the end of the season, especially in that Falcons game. We saw him get targeted a lot more, but he's a great blocking tight end. And in this scheme, with this wide zone scheme that Dave Canales runs, Tommy Tremble fits that bill, right? A versatile tight end that can go out there, make some catches, but also can block. Austin Corbett. You got him for a cheap deal, right? When Austin Corbett's healthy, he is rock solid. Whether you put him at left guard, right guard, he can kind of do either one. He's kind of like a Brady Christensen, but of course he was our center last year. We tried him out. And so the few games he played before he, tore his bicep was absolutely solid. I'm not mad about it. Like it's not like a massive ordeal, right? It wasn't a big signing, but it was a solid signing. I mean, again, you want to keep the continuity on this team, right? We saw last year the progression of this team from an offensive standpoint. I felt like, especially in the last 10 weeks when Bryce came back. So, I want to keep that continuity on that offensive line. And I think Corbett was a smart move.
I like it. What about the defensive signings? I feel like this is maybe where some of the bigger moves happen for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in Panthers land or Panthers world, you could say that like the J.C. Horn signing, right, a record-breaking deal for him, right? I mean, he is an elite corner, but the scrutiny of him and having, being, obviously because of his injuries, his past injuries, it's a big ordeal within within the Carolina realm, right? Because a lot of people are like, well, why did we sign him for so much after he only had really a full season this year, right? I mean, but he was a lockdown corner, and he played 15 out of the 17 games last year, and they believe that he can continue to play this way, and his body will hold up. As for guys like Patrick Jones, man, like you get some continuity there out of the Vikings, right? You get him coming out of Minnesota. I mean, DJ Wanham came out of Minnesota. I think this makes a lot of sense for him. He obviously had a breakout season for the Vikings last year. And so I'm interested to see, right, what he can do. So coming off a strong season, like I said, he's only 26 years old. So, and you reunite him with DJ Wanham. Now, my favorite move on the defense was Trayvon Mullen. I mean, I think he's an absolute stud. He is a consistent player each and every year. He's also very durable. He's only out of the 4 years that he's played in the NFL now, he's only missed 2 games.
Wow.
So that just tells me that all I need to know, a 25-year-old safety, a second-round pick, TCU product, right? And last year, I mean, his stats were nice. I mean, he recorded over 104 tackles, 5 tackles for a loss, 1 sack, 2 interceptions, 2 passes defended. Again, you get a playmaking ability out of a guy like that, reliability in the secondary. Now, as it comes down to these other guys, Bobby Brown was also a huge signing for us because, again, we haven't had a true nose tackle in this lineup at all. We've been playing around with Shy Total, which TJ knows all too well about. He's absolutely hot garbage. But you bring in a guy who's a proven run defender, Bobby Brown, right? That's what he is. I mean, you fill a major need, especially here in Evero's defense that we've been waiting for. He's only 24 years old. And, I think he's physical. He's intelligent. He's got mental toughness. And that's what you need on this team. So I also thought the Bobby Brown signing was good. Now, when it comes to Tershawn Wharton, I was a little skeptical about the signing. Not necessarily saying that I thought it was a bad signing. I just didn't think the contract should have been as high as it was. Because, yes, he had a breakout year last year, but really, he's only played 455 pass rushing snaps to like 198 run plays under Steve Spagnuolo, which he finally kind of broke into the starting rotation just last year. But before that, he was basically the 3rd defensive lineman there, right? So
because
now
Mandy was there before that.
Yep. And so now with Evero, you can kind of deploy Wharton strategically in some pass rush situations. So overall, like if I was to grade this from the signing standpoint of yesterday, I give it a B. I think it's very solid. I think it's one of the best off seasons we've had so far. And, obviously the trench warfare for the Carolina Panthers was the main goal. And I would say that they have definitely checked off every box that they need. Now, there's still some needs there that I'm still, would like to see if we can still pursue because there's still guys out there, right? So I still think we need to fill some roster spots because, again, we had 21 free agents, come out of this roster from last year. So.
Yeah, we got a little bit of news here now. It's not, anything big, but this is someone that I liked on the open market. He's officially off. I don't know if you guys had him on your boards, but the Raiders are signing free agent cornerback Eric Stokes, the former first-round pick of the Packers. That's a good pickup for them. That's a guy that I actually really like. So
he's nice and fast.
Yeah, that's someone who's officially off the boards in case you guys were looking at getting him. But real quick, who dat for life? Chris comes in here with a $10 donation. Shout out to Chris for the donation, saying, amazing how that Kirko Chains got abandoned immediately after November. You'd think someone put a diamond tester on Philanta to see if they actually a legit playoff team or a pretender. Smitty, this one probably, hits a little bit.
Oh, it don't bother me because I actually kicked him out the door before that because I said it on the show, that loss to the New Orleans Saints, 7 straight losses, that could ruin anybody's season, and that's exactly what happened. So that don't bother me.
It's all right, new year, new you, right? Now that it's a new league year, right? Right. Now that it's a new league year, you're not the same old Falcons, right?
Oh no.
Oh God, right? It's just like the Cowboys, right? New year, new them. Same year, same them. But Smitty, what do you think about the moves that the Carolina Panthers have made so far?
Absolutely love him, man. I didn't agree with the contract for Horn, but it's the market for cornerbacks because you got cornerbacks making nearly $30 million. Patrick Jones was a solid signing, but I'm with Clay, man. That Trayvon Moore-Rig, man, I did a lot of draft profiles and talking about him coming out of TCU. I knew he was going to be a beast. That kid from South Carolina reminds me of him, actually. So if we can get somebody like that in the second round, I would love it. The Warden signing, I agree, it was a little bit overpaid because he played next to Chris Jones. That's just like Bobby Brown playing next to Aaron Donald. Same thing. So sometimes other players can get you paid, but all the signings that they got, very, very solid, and I'm not mad at either one. Just a little bit of overpriced, and I think that Patrick Jones signing might be a steal.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Carolina Panthers and Clay, tell me if I'm wrong here, but I think you guys are still going to go out there and make moves. And with that being said, don't be surprised if you continue to overpay for a few players. The Carolina Panthers are kind of in the same situation that my Patriots are in, where you're not a good team. Players don't want to come play for you. They're not going to necessarily take market value. They're not going to take pay cuts. So with that being said, when you're in the situation that our teams are currently in, you have to overpay to get players. But the reason that you overpay now is that you start to get better. You start to be a contender. When teams, or rather players, see that your team is a contender, something that they can go to and actually compete for potential Lombardi, they're going to give you a pay cut. They are going to take market value. You're not going to have to overpay. So you overpay now so that in the future you don't have to. The other thing I'll say too is that it might look like you're overpaying a player now, but how many off seasons in a row now has it been that the cap space has gone up? Contracts, as we know it, are changing every single year. I remember when Patrick Mahomes got his first extension and we said the Chiefs aren't going to be able to make any moves. They overpaid for Patrick Mahomes. And then we looked at it a year, 2 years later and said he's actually very much underpaid. It's kind of the same thing with Josh Allen. You look at his contract, people are starting to say he's overpaid. In 2 years, we're going to look back at this and say that Josh Allen is underpaid as one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Contracts are changing, which is why quarterbacks, wide receivers, they are resetting the market every single year. But James,
y'all heard it here first.
You heard it here first?
If Lamar Jackson wins the Super Bowl, he's going to be the first $70 million quarterback.
I agree with that. I don't think that's a hot take at all. I think it's a good take, Smitty. James, what do you think about the Panthers' moves?
Yeah, I think that first and foremost, I think the theme of a lot of the signings the Panthers made was we want to get better at run defense on the defensive side of the ball. Trayvon Moehrig was literally the 7th best run defense safety in the league in 24, according to Pro Football Focus. Bobby Brown was the 27th best defensive interior lineman in 24. Pat Jones was the 47th best edge defender in terms of run defense in 24. Even J.C. Horn, 13th best cornerback in terms of run defense. So like that was a big theme that I noticed with a lot of the Panthers signings. Tershawn Wharton appears to be a bit of a pass rush specialist. Like Clay was saying, hasn't really had a lot of opportunities in terms of run stopping opportunities, but again, he can certainly help out with that pass rush as well. I agree. It's Smitty. Pat Jones for $10 million per year seems like it could be a very good value signing. JC Horn, he got a lot of money, man. He got a lot of money, so that's going to be a big step up for him to see. Whenever you pay a guy that much money, it's definitely going to be go time. So I'm going to be interested to see, averaging $25 million per year, $70 million guaranteed for JC Horn. So that's going to be a big contract that he has to live up to. One signing that I think is honestly kind of underrated, and I remember Clay talked about this young man a lot on his channel, and just like during the live streams we've done as well, as Mike Jackson coming back at cornerback. I think that's a kind of an underrated re-signing for the Panthers. I mean, he was pretty solid last year, just in terms of being a complimentary starting caliber-esque cornerback. So overall, I like what the Panthers have been doing. They're throwing a lot of money out. They're trying to rebuild that defense and get some things going there. Would like to see them possibly spend a little bit more on bringing in some more reinforcements with for Bryce Young, right? That can also happen in the draft, and they're not done. I mean, they still may make some moves down the line. There's still a lot of good offensive weapons in there as well. They've got a couple of offensive linemen coming back in Corbett and Christensen. So, but obviously the focus here has been on defense. They want to get better at stopping the run. They want to get beefier up on that defensive line. I mean, Clay used to say it all the time. I mean, quite frankly, teams could run all over the yard against Carolina. And now they're saying, hey, we're not going to let that happen again. And also, Trayvon Moehrig, that's a big deal. That's a big deal, man. I think he's going to be a really solid player for them, one of the captains of that defense, I think, going forward, and is probably going to be one of the top players on that defense there for the next couple of seasons.
Now, Clay, before we wrap up the Panthers, I do just want to ask you, I know you touched upon it a little bit, but just to give the people an idea, all the Panthers fans watching, you were about to land arguably the best free agent that was on the board in Milton Williams. And everybody thought, including the Pat McAfee show, they thought that you guys had landed him. And then Ian Rappaport comes in and says, no. Nothing is done yet. It is not official. And they're like, wait, what? Next thing you know, the New England Patriots are signing him to a deal worth 4 years, about $26 million a year. It was reported that the Patriots swooped in and upped the offer by $1 million, just $1 million. I say that like it's nothing. $1 million, and he ends up going to New England over Carolina. What was your thought process when this whole thing happened?
Well, at first, I'm dead. No, I'm dead. This is just kind of like a story more than anything. I was literally making a TikTok talking about signing Milton Williams. As I'm doing this, I notice I get a text message from one of my buddies and says, "Hey, man, don't make any videos," because I was making videos, TikToks throughout the day, and it was like, "Don't make a video about Milton Williams.
That's cool.
They're not going to sign there. He's not going to sign with them." Because when it came out that we were going to sign him, it said that it has not been it's not come to fruition, that it was in talks, right? So I'm like, okay, we're in talks, blah, blah, blah. So I didn't post it. And thank God I didn't post it, because then I would look like an absolute idiot. But anyways, no, I mean, it was just a last minute scramble. I think, he's one of the most coveted defensive linemen on the market at that time, right? You were hoping to see him in that black and blue of Carolina. And then there was all of a sudden, there's this last minute interest from Arizona, Minnesota, and then added this unexpected complications of it was almost like a done deal. And then this dramatic twist of event just came through. And then New England swooped in with that offer and just pulling off a classic Patriots power move that kind of just left us empty handed. But then it made us pivot, right? Because I think right after you guys signed Milton, we went and got Trayvon Moehrig. So, I think it was kind of like it kind of worked itself out, right? And, I mean, I hope it works out for you guys. I was really hoping to get him. He was one of my favorite targets this offseason. But, I mean, the timing of the move couldn't have been worse for us. So, but, hey, it is what it is. Y'all, and, hey, nothing but the best.
Nothing but the best. Moving on here, though, to you, Smitty. Again, your Falcons maybe didn't make as many moves as the rest of the division or even the rest of the league, but you did still make a couple of good moves here. Why don't you break down what you guys have done for us so far?
Well, we all knew that defense was going to
just like his signings, just nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, we're
Smitty, we don't want to
that-
talk about it, man. It's all right. It's all right. We don't got to talk about it. Smitty's
Hey,
like
we
shaking
got
his
that booster
laptop.
seat. We talk.
Smitty's like shaking his
But,
laptop. He's like,
yeah.
it's not working.
Smitty, you going in and out, buddy?
I think we're losing Smitty, but until we get Smitty back, why don't we go down to James? James, what have you thought so far looking at the Falcons signings?
Yeah. So firstly, they re-signed Jake Matthews to a two-year extension, $45 million. I mean, that's a beefy extension, right? Matthews is still a really good player. He is 33 years old, though. He's getting a little bit up there. Still a phenomenal pass blocker. So I think that makes sure that he's going to retire as a Atlanta Falcons. So shout out to the Falcons for that. Next, they honestly, this is a pretty low-key signing, in my opinion, Colby. They brought in Leonard Floyd, and Leonard Floyd's been pretty good.
Great move.
And they swooped on that right after he was released by the 49ers, right? So that's a 1-year, $10 million deal. Honestly, not bad value, in my opinion. I mean, you look at what Floyd has done. I mean, listen to this, guys. 2020, 10.5 sacks. 2021, 9.5. 2022, 9 sacks. 2023, 10.5 sacks. 2024, 8.5. So, the dude is efficient as can be. So, I'm honestly, the Pro Football Focus grades don't love him. I mean, 53.5 grade. That's 163rd out of 211 edge defenders. I'm kind of going to disagree with that a little bit here.
Mm-hmm.
You see the efficiency there. You see the consistency as well in terms of his pass rushing ability. So, overall, pretty good signing. I had some thoughts on one or two more things for the Falcons, but I'll let Smitty get back into it.
Break it down for us. Maybe we're just talking about Leonard Floyd, how much we like that move for you guys and how much he still has left in the tank. Maybe he's really an underrated player. This is going to be one of the more underrated signings in the league. What have you thought about the Falcons signings thus far?
Hey, Clay, I heard that, man. I'm going to get you, bro. But, yeah, but what I was saying, man, we knew the point going into the offseason was going to be defense. Even at the combine, we all talked to defensive prospects. So we all know that defense is a big problem spot for the Falcons. Linebacker, big need. Helped that a little bit with Divine Diablo with the speed. Good run stopper. Former safety turn linebacker. That's always good to be versatile. So that means he can do a lot. Leonard Floyd, who y'all were talking to. Funny thing is, my co-host on the show, me and him talked about it as soon as we got out the live. And he said, "What you think about Leonard Floyd?" I said, 8 to 10 million should do it. 15 minutes later, guess what? $10 million guaranteed. So I've been on the Leonard Floyd train for about 2 to 3 years. Ever since he left Chicago, I knew that he could be one of those game-changing edge rushers. Coming out of college, he wasn't, all, sparky and exciting, but job done. And the sad part is we picked up the Lorenzo Carter instead of him, which was ass backwards. But yeah, Mike Hughes, another good re-signing, which I said we were probably going to re-sign him anyway, because guess what? He played under Jerry Gray in Minnesota, so it makes sense. But already these couple of signs, I think they're warranted to re-sign. And I think you'll see a Jesse Bates extension soon to get more cap space because I feel like he will be here for the long run. And it'll give us an idea which way we're going to go in the NFL draft.
Well, we got Who Dat for Life Chris coming back in here with a $5 donation saying, notion that we have Kyle Pitts tested to see if he's really AI with as little production he gives on the field. I mean, at this point, he's just doing cardio. Smitty, there have been rumors going around this offseason that maybe he is someone that you guys trade. One, do you think it happens? Two, do you want to see him traded?
I agree with you 100%. His cardio should be 100%. But I don't know where they're going to go with Kyle Pitts into the draft. If he's traded, I think it'll be draft night. If not, and I think Michael Penix has spoke up for him that he would love to play with Kyle Pitts. That may say, but the trade won't get as much value. So it'll just be, how they view him going into the trade deadline. If he traded, it'll draft or before. That's my thought on it.
Yeah, I mean, I do think at this point when it comes to Kyle Pitts, like whatever you can get from him, I feel like if you get like a 5th round pick or worse, at that point, I would just keep him for depth. But if you can get anything better than that, I would. As a former 1st round pick, he's going to hold value. He's only ever been with your organization because of that,
right.
Because of being a 1st round pick prior. He was expected to be this all-pro talent. Teams are going to look at that and say, he just didn't work out in Atlanta. Maybe we can get the best out of him. Maybe he just needs a change of scenery, and I think you guys can still get pretty good overall compensation back for him, a 3rd, 4th round pick. So if I'm a Falcons fan, I would do it.
I'm going to always be pissed because Michael Parsons was sitting there for the taking.
He was, man. Michael Parsons.
And what we talking about right now? Edge rushes.
When we talk about edge rushes, right? This is what helps you.
Just saying.
But James, going back to you, I know you had a couple more thoughts on the Falcons' moves. Why don't you let us know about those?
Yes, I mean, like somebody was saying with the Divine Diablo signing, which, by the way, great name, right? Great name. Fantastic name there. So, one thing that I think has been so interesting, and Colby, you can attest to this too, like the inside linebacker market has been crazy this free agency.
Oh, yeah.
Like so many inside linebackers and so many interior defensive linemen have been getting like big deals, right? Yeah, like it's been crazy. So like Divine Diablo got a little, $7 million per year. I think he's a solid linebacker. Really, the Falcons have been pretty low key in terms of their signings, which I think is okay, given kind of some of their salary cap limitations. One thing that can't be overlooked too is like they did release a team captain. Like Grady Jarrett's no longer there, like lifelong Falcon, multiple-time Pro Bowler with them. It was probably time to move on from him. He actually very quickly signed a contract with, I think it was the Bears, right? I think he got like around $10 million with that team. So, and then also bringing back Mike Hughes as well. The Falcons are doing with what they can with their limitations. The one thing I don't get though, and I get like, maybe it's like, because I've heard the same thing here. I'm curious to get your guys' thoughts and opinions on this. The Jets have not released Aaron Rodgers yet because they're going to designate him as a post-June 1st cut to kind of split up that dead cap. Is that what the Falcons might be waiting for, revolving around Kirk Cousins? Because if that's not the reason, then I don't see any other reason as to why the Falcons haven't moved on.
No, that can't be the reason, because he's guaranteed $10 million roster bonus. So they actually losing $10 million if he's still on the team 5 more days. So I don't understand what's going on.
Yeah, I don't understand that then. Like, if you're holding out for like a trade, in my opinion, I don't see a trade materializing. The Seahawks just got their quarterback. The Browns just traded for Kenny Pickett. Are they going to trade for a second quarterback? It doesn't seem like that's super likely. So it's just really interesting. Like, I doubt, or I don't believe they should keep Cousins on as a backup. I mean, just full send, Michael Penix. In my opinion,
let me tell you, James, if he goes back to the locker room and they're at training camp, all hell is gonna break loose, because he's thrown the team up under the bus. He's pretty much told y'all he don't want to play here. He talked to the owner the other day and told him what he wanted to do, and basically said, trade me where I want to go, because I want to start in 2025. He's not going to support anything that's going on in Atlanta if he's still on this roster. So if he's still on this roster, all hell is going to break loose in that locker room. And guess what? They're going to lose. They're going to lose our respect for the head coach at that point and the owner.
Yeah, so that's like the most confusing situation to me. Like, not seeing them do a ton. Like again, they've made some kind of like savvier moves. I think, bringing in some vets who can help out. The one thing that I don't get is you got to move on from Kirk. I mean, you have to. If they don't move on from him tomorrow, it's sort of the new league year, I'm gonna be like, what are we doing here? But aside from that, like, I feel like the Falcons are doing the most with what they can, and that's cool with me. Shout out to the Falcons.
Yeah, James, I mean, one thing that I will hit on, so according to Over the Cap, if they cut Kirk Cousins before June 1st, they'll take on $65 million in dead money and lose $25 million against the cap. Now, if they release him after June 1st, they'll take on $40 million in dead money. They won't gain any cap space, but they won't lose anything against their cap space also.
Yep.
So interesting.
It's $40 million this year and 25 next year if they decide to pull.
Yeah, so that leads me to believe, like, tomorrow at the start of the new league year, I mean, much like with Rodgers, they've got to cut Cousins then. They're designating him for a post-June 1st cut or whatever it is.
Yeah, say that $10 million, they can say that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. But Clay, what are your thoughts on the moves that the Atlanta Falcons have made so far?
Yeah, I mean, you lose Grady Jarrett, you lose, bring back Judon, you don't bring back who else was the other guy they didn't bring
Justin
back?
Simmons.
Yeah, you don't bring back Justin Simmons, who I actually hope Carolina actually brings alongside Morig. That would be absolutely filthy. But then you do end up getting, bringing back, or you bring in a nice edge defender. I think, who I think Leonard Floyd is absolutely still has a lot left in the tank. I mean, at 32 years old, I mean, he's a Georgia boy, makes a lot of sense. He will be 33 apparently by September 8th, it looks like. But yeah, I mean, you're getting a guy who had double-digit sacks back in 2023. And then now you bring him in. He's durable. He's very productive. You return him back home. Makes a lot of sense, right? As for Divine Diablo, top 5 name in the NFL for sure. But I mean, absolute stud, right? I think he's an absolute stud. I think this is probably, besides Jake Matthews, I think the Divine Diablo is one of the best moves for Atlanta.
Very solid. Very solid.
But then of course, Mike Hughes, I think he's okay. Like I'm not like, oh wow, they re-signed Mike Hughes, right? Like I think he's a reliable corner. I think he's very serviceable, and he's going to give you some good games here and there. But there are times I remember seeing Mike Hughes last year just getting absolutely cooked. So
yeah, but you got to think about the defense and where they were at that point.
Right.
After the 6-3 start, it just fell off a cliff. And when one piece of the defense falls off, all of it does. Yeah. But what Mike Hughes brings, he's also a special teams guy. So that kind of helps,
Yeah. Yeah, you still need those special team guys for sure, right? You need those guys you can still throw out there on the kickoffs and punt returns, stuff like that. But again, I think he's serviceable. I think he's reliable. He's durable. You know, again, I'm always a big believer. The best ability in the NFL is availability.
Yep. Yeah.
So, but other than that, so solid. I mean, with Atlanta where they're at in their cap space, I didn't really expect them to be doing much anyways. I expected maybe to sign a few guys here and there. They'll probably sign a few more guys, but after that, I mean, it's going to be all draft for them.
Yeah, you'll see a lot of practice squad and second, third string players getting playing time this year.
Yeah, and I have a quick question for Smitty. Drew Dahlman's gone. What are they going to do at starting center now?
That's still to be seen. I like the Green Bay center who's out there on the market. I could see them going in the draft. And this is why I said now as I'm looking at it, I think a trade back is probably more logical at this point because of all the depth you need on the defensive side of the ball and in the trenches. And that's on the offensive line with center, right tackle. Yeah, I think they'll go free agency with center or they'll go to draft. But they could bring back Ryan Nuzell, who played pretty well in Dahlman's absence last year, and he's probably only going to be anywhere from $3 to $5 million. So that's a steal. So yeah, I can see Ryan Nuzell coming back as well.
I'll tell you a guy you can get in the third round, Smitty, who will be your starter for the next 4 or 5 years and probably your franchise center. His name is Jared Wilson. Yes.
Yeah. Georgia Bulldog.
Get yourself a little Gray Zabel. Come on, Smitty. Go in the draft, get Gray Zabel, do it all offensive lineman.
I ain't on that hype train because look what happened with Trey Lance coming out of North Dakota State. That's all I got to say.
You got a little bit of PTSD from the college. It's all right. I get it, Smitty. I'm that type of guy too. But hey, guys, look, before we continue on, want to give a massive shout out to the sponsor of today's video, a new sponsor here at Roundtable Sports and here on the NFC South Roundtable. That is over at Underdog Fantasy. Right now, when you guys sign up and deposit using code RTS, like you see on the screen, that is RTS, you will receive up to a $1,000 in bonus credit. Plus, you will also get a free pick, up to $1,000 in bonus credit for all new customers that join right now, guys. The best fantasy app. The best part is, too, is they got fast deposits, easy deposit and withdrawal process. And it is available no matter where you are in the world. Doesn't matter what state you are, as long as you are in the U.S., you are going to be able to use Underdog Fantasy. Your favorite creators use Underdog Fantasy, and they use them for a reason. Remember that supporting the sponsors, that supports the channel, supports us massively here at Roundtable Sports and here at the NFC South Roundtable. I know that football, it's not here yet, but it's ramping up, baby. We're in free agency. We got the draft. Then before you know it, we're back in training camp, and then it's preseason and the regular season. But if you want to get in on the action now with Underdog, you can bet on NBA. You can also bet on, baseball. Baseball's right around the corner. So make sure you guys have a little bit of extra fun with Underdog Fantasy, the sponsor of today's video. But I want to go on over to you, James, and I want you to break down all the moves that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have made so far. The big one, as we know, bringing in Chris Godwin, that move maybe already had you a little bit held bent against the cap. You went into free agency, not having a whole lot of money to spend in the first place. Chris Godwin, more than likely going to be your big move of the offseason, but you did make a couple of other pretty good moves. I mean, Hassan Reddick, didn't see that one coming. I thought that was a really, really good move for you guys. Why don't you break it down?
Well, I thought you were going to say the move of the offseason for the Bucs was Riley Dixon coming in. I see him on that graphic down there. New punter, baby.
That?
Yeah.
Had to add the punter, man.
That's good. I like that. Punters are people, too.
MVP, man.
Oh, yeah. So, actually, interesting thing with Colby's contract, or not your contract, Colby.
Contract, man. Let's go.
Listen, we brought in Colby Cochran,
hey,
good guy.
The broadcaster for the Buccaneers. Now let's go.
Oh, yeah.
The veteran minimum. I was okay with it just to go to Tampa Bay.
That's right. No, Chris Godwin's contract, Colby, is interesting because they actually saved $8 million by signing him to a new deal.
Really?
Because of I don't know exactly how it works, man. I'm not a cap wizard, but you know how it works, void years and all those different types of things. So they did actually save $8 million, bringing him in on a new deal. 3 years, $66 million, $44 million guaranteed. Apparently left some money on the table. Colby, we talked about that. Yeah,
about $8 million a year.
Yeah, well, and it was cited that Godwin felt that, hey, his allegiance to the organization, his relationship with Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans was a big deal. And I mean, I don't blame him. He's the second best wide receiver in Bucs history, in my opinion. I mean, you just look at the stats as well. He statistically is. So $22 million for Godwin. Honestly, if he comes back healthy from that dislocated ankle, that's a great deal, in my opinion. That's right. Honestly, that's a little bit of a value in terms of what you can get from Godwin, a consistent 1,000-yard wide receiver when he is healthy and playing at his peak. So I'll take that every day of the week. They did bring back Ben Bredeson on a deal, 3 years, $22 million. I think $12 million of it was guaranteed, something along those lines. It was a bit of an overpay, in my opinion. Bredeson, signed for $3 million last year, was coming off the New York Giants, started and played every game for the Buccaneers this past season. Was fine, all things considered. I guess that just goes to show kind of where the interior line money is right now in the market. So one thing that's interesting to me is Ben Bredeson's only 27 years old. And you look, Wirfs is on a long-term deal. Bredeson's now on a long-term deal. Graham Barton is on a long-term deal. Cody Mock's got 2 more years of his deal. And Luke Gedeke is going to be a free agent next offseason. Hopefully he can be brought back. So the Bucs offensive line, in fact, their entire offense returns all of their starters from last season going into this season. So that's kind of like an old adage of it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it type thing, right? The Bucs did have one of the top offenses last year. So happy to see that they were able to keep some important pieces on their offensive line, but of course, Chris Godwin. Levante David coming back was huge as well, right? I feel like people aren't really talking about that enough. A 1-year, $10 million deal, like we talked about. Colby, inside linebacker, has been getting some real crazy value. Robert Spillane to the Patriots. He what did he get? Like 13 mil, something like that?
Insane contract, man. I didn't see that one coming. But I mean, he's also been a guy who's had, 100+ tackles the last few years, over 1,000 snaps on defense the last 2 years. So I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, because the Raiders ain't got nobody.
Right.
Yeah.
So like $9 million guaranteed for Levante David. I mean, he's still good. He did take a step back last season, but I still think he's a serviceable starting linebacker in this league at minimum, which I'm happy about that. Got Clay with the boomstick. Love to see it. But Levante David's still good enough, I think. I would like to see them add a little bit more into that linebacker room because, yes, you have Servassier Dennis, but KJ Britt played snaps for you last year. He's now out of the building. He's a free agent. Same thing with JJ Russell. They didn't restrict him or tender his contract, so he's a free agent as well. And they do have Deion Jones, which they signed him at the end of last year. I want to see them add another veteran or possibly draft somebody as well, just to continue to add to that room. And then finally, like you said, Colby, Hassan Reddick. I mean, 1 year, $14 million, $12 million guaranteed. And I understand why people might be hesitant about that signing, right? Because the most recent example of Hassan Reddick is the New York Jets Hassan Reddick. Now, I will counter that and say, if there is one organization where you can go to, be absolutely terrible, come out of that organization and rebound, it is the New York Jets. I mean, they are just an absolute mess of an organization most of the time. So I am cautiously optimistic about this signing. I think that if you're getting the Hassan Reddick that posted 4 straight seasons of double-digit sacks, this is an incredible value signing, right? But that's a big if. We don't know what that's going to look like. So I'm hoping that Reddick, now that he's going to have a full off season under his belt, he's going to have something to prove because he's probably going to look for one more big payday for a couple year type of deal that will motivate him to go out there and be that old version of Hassan Reddick. He does have some connections in the organization. He was drafted by Bruce Arians with Arizona. Larry Foote was one of his coaches in Arizona as well. He's now back in the building with Foote as well. So it was needed, right? It was absolutely needed. And I think even if you get a, Hassan Reddick who's getting you like 8, 8.5, 9 sacks, whatever it may be, it's still a whole heck of a lot better than what the Bucs had. So I'm very cautiously optimistic about that Reddick signing. The Bucs needed to get some type of, at least somewhat reliable help, right, in terms of their pass rush, a guy who has some type of proven track record, and they've got that with Reddick. The Jets here doesn't worry me as much as it might with other people. And I don't think they're done at adding to that room, by the way. right? They re-signed Anthony Nelson to a 2-year, $10 million deal. He's been a consistent kind of 4 or 5 sack guy for them in the past. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka's gone. He went to the Cleveland Browns. Really, it's not that the kind of writing was on the wall for that one. And, I think they're still in play to take an edge rusher in the first round, or maybe even add another name. Like, I'm sure Clay and Smitty can attest to this as well. Like, so many veteran pass rushers are available in this free agent market class. Even still, there's still like maybe 8 to 10 guys where you're like, they could bring that guy in on like a $5 million deal, and he might be some good rotational guy for you. So I don't want the Bucs to be done in terms of adding to inside linebacker or edge defender for sure. Kind of the big question they have now is like, what are they going to do with a guy like Jamel Dean? He's still on the Bucs roster right now. Going to be interesting to see what they do with him, if they keep him, if they move on from him, because a lot of these top tier cornerbacks have been off the board now, right? So I'm curious to see what they do with Dean now that the cornerback market's dried up a little bit. But overall, can't complain about what the Bucs have been doing. They've been bringing back some of their top pieces, added a hopeful top-esque pass rusher in Hassan Reddick. So all in all, I've been very satisfied with what the Bucs have been doing so far.
And I'm glad you said that about the draft. We pick at number 15. Just 30 to 20 range. I think it's going to be a run on edge rushes. So you can see a lot of people trading up. And I already said I think the Bucs jumped the Falcons to get one of those top edge rushes because everybody in the NFC South need edge rushes. So see trades, whether it's from the Carolina Panthers at 7, Atlanta at 15. It's going to be in that range where it's going to be a run on edge rushes.
Yeah, it's a really great edge rusher class too. This is arguably the greatest edge class coming out of an NFL draft that we have ever seen. I mean, I was there at the Senior Bowl. I was hearing the rumblings, at Radio Row during the Super Bowl. This is an unbelievable edge class to where you're going to get a difference maker still in rounds 4. So, I mean, this is a really good opportunity for, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to not even get one guy, but potentially even double down within the first 4 rounds to get difference makers and get those guys on rookie deals. And I think that'd be really important for them to be able to address this defense without having to pay top dollar. But Clay, what are your thoughts on the moves the Buccaneers have made?
Yeah, I mean, you could bring Chris Godwin back. I mean, keep that continuity in that offense for sure, right? Add to the offensive line. I'm always a big believer in building up the trenches and keeping that solid, right? Levante David, again, a leader on that defense that you get to keep. Again, continuity once again. Hassan Reddick. Boy, do I know too much about Mr. Hassan Reddick. We had him for 1 season. He had a career high with us, actually, when we had him. So, and then Carolina just kind of let him walk. The thing is which Hassan Reddick are you going to get? Are you going to get the Hassan Reddick that you saw and heard about in New York? Or are you going to get the Hassan Reddick we kind of saw a little bit of some flashes in Philadelphia, right? So it's like, which Hassan Reddick are you going to get, right? And obviously, I think for him to be signing with Tampa Bay, I think you're going to see Hassan Reddick bounce back. And I hate to say that because I hate to play this man twice a year, because when Hassan Reddick is on, he is an absolute beast. So other than that, overall, man, these are good signings. I mean, they make sense. You keep the continuity and some, with David and Godwin, right? You bring in Reddick where you needed some extra pass rushing help. But man, Riley Dixon, the punter. I mean, let me tell you about that guy. I'm just kidding. But you signed a punter, but other than that, overall, solid. These are just solid moves, right?
Yeah.
Smitty, what about you? What do you think about these moves?
I love all these moves, man. And I think where Hassan Reddick has the advantage in Tampa, he has that big nose tackle that can eat up space and Vita Vea. He's the difference maker. So when you add somebody like that up front, guys like Levante David can play longer. You have guys like Chris Godwin. To me, him and Mike Evans are one of the best duos all time. I'm just not talking present. I'm talking all time. They up there with the Marvin Harrison and Reggie Waynes and players like that. Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt in St. Louis. That's just the type of duo they are. And I think they're going to be wrecking shit for years to come. And honestly, I think Chris Godwin could sneaking the back end of the Hall of Fame down the road if he finishes his career in Tampa. But I think, honestly, Bruce Arians is going to be the reason Hassan Reddick bounces back. Like y'all said, that was his coach in Arizona. That's going to be the difference. But they made some very solid signings, and I think, like I said, I can see them going edge rusher when they pick, and you can see a run on edge rushers at that point in the middle of the draft. Because remember, when the Falcons drafted Drake London, guess what? Run on wide receiver. Only takes one. So, yeah, very solid.
Well, let's go ahead and let's get into the moves that the Saints made. I know that we don't have TJ here for the week, but we will still break down the moves for all the Saints fans that are still watching. So they made a couple of moves. Most of these were re-signings. I mean, you re-sign on a one-year deal wide receiver Dante Pettis. You also brought back tight end Juwan Johnson on a 3-year deal, $30.7 million. I mean, I think this is a really, really good deal. Juwan Johnson has been one, if not the most underrated tight end in the National Football League for years. So I think bringing him back, that's not a move that I thought was going to happen. I thought he was going to outprice himself from New Orleans, but they bring him back, which makes a lot of sense, you know, given their offense and given their direction. They also traded for Patriots defensive lineman Devon Godchaux. They're giving up a 7th-round pick, not in 2025, but in 2026. This is a guy that is in his 30s, right? He's getting a bit older. He's not someone who's going to give you quite literally any pass rush. He's not a DT1, DT2. He's not an every down defensive lineman, but he's a good situational guy that stays on the field during obvious running situations. He's a veteran. He's a very, very good locker room guy. And again, you're only giving up a 7th-round pick for next year. So good move for a team that needed to get better at stopping the run. They're also bringing back Chase Young on a 3-year deal worth $51 million. I thought he actually had a pretty good season with the Saints. So I don't mind this at all. I think if you're able to get, another young edge in the draft to pair up with Chase Young, now you're cooking a little bit. But today they made really one of their first external moves, and that was agreeing to a 3-year deal worth $31.5 million with Chiefs safety Justin Reed, another really good option by them. They also just renegotiated the contract and reworked the contract with Tyrann Mathieu. So again, they kind of have that secondary solidified, maybe add a couple cornerbacks, but when it comes to deep, working with your safeties, it seems like that is an area that is solidified for the Saints. Obviously, we shouldn't expect them to do a whole lot, right? They had the least amount of cap space to start the offseason. They were negative $50 million in cap space. So a lot of moves were not realistic for the Saints, but nonetheless, they're retaining some of their key players and making some pretty decent moves. Smitty, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I absolutely love these moves, man. I actually wanted Chase Young in Atlanta, but I know with the cap space, it wasn't possible. And they kind of overpaid a little bit because he was a rotational guy last year. He didn't start a single game, but he still made an impact. Juwan Johnson, I feel like New Orleans was the perfect spot for him to stay because he's familiar with the system. And I think if they turn the corner on offense, he's going to be one of the key reasons. Devin Godchaux, when I saw that they got him for a 7th-round pick down the road, I was kind of pissed about that because we need zero technique nose tackle in Atlanta. But Justin Reed is a very solid signing, man. Very solid. I feel like with Kansas City, he could have demanded much more to going back there. But I think he solidifies that safety position with the Saints and helps them because y'all know they lost Adebo to the Giants. So get a Justin Reed to help the defensive backs over the top, I think is huge.
We got the man, the myth, the legend. As soon as we start talking about the Saints,
he man pop
as soon as we be talking about the Saints.
We got TJ up in the chat, baby. What's going on, TJ?
I can't stand it, man.
Hey, man, what's going on, fellas, man? What's going on?
Yo, TJ, we just started talking about the moves that the Saints are making. Why don't you go ahead and break down what you are doing so far? I mean, I definitely want to hear about the move of Devon Godchaux, too. I want to hear your thoughts about that one.
Man, I just think that it was a good move. It was something different. I mean, a big 6'3", 330-pound interior guy. The Saints are going to transition from a 4-3 to a 3-4 with Brandon Staley as defensive coordinator. So you need that big guy that can demand a double team. All in all, man, I look at a lot of these moves as a team that kind of is delusional. I'm just going to be 100 with you. The Saints are delusional. Mickey Loomis is making these moves as if injuries was the only issue that was going on with this team. And if the Saints would have stayed relatively healthy, then they would have, made a push, won a division, went to the postseason. I just think that that's just wishful thinking, man. This is an old roster. They need to hit the reset button. Saints fans are tired of this same old song and dance, man. Saints fans are really at the point where they would embrace the suck, be bad one year, and be able to get themselves back to being competitive. This is not sustainable success. Like Justin Reed, that was great. That was a great signing. Godshaw is a great signing, but you bring back the same guys, man. Juwan Johnson, to me, you're not about to tell me if you was to draft Tyler Warren out of Penn State, he's not going to be a better tight end than Juwan Johnson. You gave this guy a 3-year deal, and he isn't worth it. He doesn't deserve that 3-year deal. I thought that he was going to be on his way out. I mean, Nathan Shepard, he has more. I guess he has more personal foul penalties than he does tackles. I mean, it's pretty bad, man. Man, I don't expect for the Saints to do anything. And these guys that they signed, this tells us everything that we need to know, man. The general manager of the New Orleans Saints, Mickey Loomis, is absolutely delusional. And I don't expect the New Orleans Saints to do too much of anything. I really don't. And I'm kind of shocked, man, because I thought maybe Kellen Moore would come in, maybe change some things around. But it seems to me like the reason why they signed him so far, and, I like the moves he's making when it comes to the coaches, but maybe the reason they signed him is because he's kind of used to this regime being under Jerry Jones all those years where he calls the shots.
Yes, man.
And yeah, I won't call him a yes man, but he just kind of used to the general manager / owner kind of running the joint. So
right.
I'm not a real big fan of it. This is a team to me that just telling me that they don't feel like anything was going on. And the weird thing about it is, the sick thing about it, folks, if it wasn't for Gail Benson and Dennis Lauscher, Gail Benson, the owner, and Dennis Lauscher, the president of the team, if they didn't intervene and fire Dennis Allen, we'd probably be talking about Dennis Allen still being here. It's pretty sad, man. It's pretty sad.
Now, we also heard Smitty's take just a few minutes ago on the moves that the Saints have made. James, what are your thoughts on the moves that you've seen the Saints make?
Man, if I'm being completely honest with you guys, I don't love it. I agree with TJ where it feels like the Saints are desperately just throwing money at guys to try and continue to be competitive instead of embracing working with younger guys, right? Like Juwan Johnson, fine player, but is he worth $10 million per season, $21 million guaranteed? In my opinion, no. I mean, you're looking at a guy who,
wow, I didn't know he got that much. Oof.
It led the Saints in receiving yards last year, but Foster Moreau almost put up very similar and in some ways better stats than Juwan Johnson, right? So I don't really get that signing. It feels like a big overpay. I agree with TJ. You could have gotten somebody for similar production in the NFL draft. Devon Godchuk, honestly, not a bad trade. Fine defensive lineman. I don't have a problem with that. Chase Young, 3 years, $51 million, max value of $57 million. I don't know how much guaranteed money he got, right? But we're talking about a guy who, yes, is only 25 years old, about to be 26 years old, was a defensive rookie year, a Pro Bowler. He's also never had more than 7.5 sacks in his career in a season, right? Is that really worth $17 million? Doesn't feel like it to me. Right. And it always feels like the Saints overpaid for the potential of Chase Young. Right. I feel like that money could have been allocated. You could have gotten a couple more. I mean, take a look at Hassan Reddick, got $14 million per year. You take a look at Leonard Floyd. He just got $10 million per year. We talked about earlier about all of the different types of edge rushers that were available in this class. It just seems like veteran after veteran after veteran is becoming available. And you gave Chase Young $17 million. It feels like a pretty gross overpay, in my opinion. Then finally, Justin Reed, again, good player, really good player. 3 years, $31 million. $22.5 million guaranteed. I do question where the Saints are allocating these funds, though, right? They're very limited funds at that, because you need offensive line help. You need some more receiving help. Yes, Juwan Johnson will help that in some way, shape, or form, but maybe another receiver could have helped. Maybe bringing in some more offensive linemen could have helped. Maybe you could have brought in some linebacker help, or possibly even some different defensive line help at more affordable values, right? It just feels like the Saints, I agree with TJ, where they are overpaying for guys for the desperation of trying to stay competitive, and I just don't think it's going to work in the end. I could be completely wrong, but I feel like they overpaid for Juwan Johnson. I feel like they overpaid for Chase Young. And yes, while I do like Justin Reed, I feel like they could have allocated those resources to different position groups to help build a stronger core overall for their team.
Yeah, I agree. Clay, why don't you wrap us up here with the Saints and let us know your thoughts on the signings?
Yeah, I mean, Justin Reed to me is actually a really good signing. If you go look at his PFF grading last year, had a career best, ranked 10th among safeties in coverage and run defense. Actually was 11th, finished 8th most valuable safety in the league. So I think this was a smart move from a front office standpoint. You re-signed Tyrann Mathieu to go alongside him, given the cap situation. You know, you can't afford any more bad contracts, but yet then somehow they're able to go out and sign all these guys. Like, you know, you thought they were in cap purgatory, and then they're still able to sign these guys. You know, Dante Pettis really was just more of I think he's just more of a guy that they signed just to bring in just in case, you know, Shaheed can't stay healthy again. That's kind of just more of that. Juwan Johnson, I think he's been one of the most, at least from the New Orleans Saints standpoint, he's probably been one of the most productive pass catchers in recent years that they haven't had. But again, I don't see. Yeah, I mean, I'd rather have Tyler Warren. I'd rather draft Tyler Warren and instead of re-signing Juwan Johnson for sure. Defensive end Chase Young. I think the Chase Young is more of a high risk, high reward. Right? Like if he's only 26, right? So like if he comes out there and shows you that the old him of like what he was at the Commanders with, and how he was terrorizing defenses, it could end up being work out, right? But then also at the same time, it could end up biting you in the ass from a contract standpoint, right? So, and for Devon, I actually asked TJ on X, what he thought. And obviously I thought it was a good signing because that's why I asked him. I was like, man, you got a 7th round pick for a big interior defensive lineman that can stop the run. And that's what I think a lot of the problem for Saints last year, their biggest issue was more than anything I felt like from watching them was kind of like the same thing, except Carolina had like the worst defense in NFL history. But, but at least like TJ said, when he responded back to me, you get a proven starter right there in the interior. So,
but TJ, I got to ask you this right quick, Roll. Mm-hmm. Do they really believe in Derek Carr restructuring that contract? Is it another Kirk Cousins situation where they just stuck with it?
Man, Derek Carr don't want to be with the Saints. He didn't want to be there. And honestly, the Saints couldn't afford to let him go. It's that simple. Like he thought that he was going to be able to test free agency, but the Saints, they wish they can do it. But if they would have allowed him to test free agency, they would have had a $51 million cap hit. So they had to restructure his deal. So, man, you kind of stuck with this guy. You stuck with him. He doesn't want to be there. The fan base don't want him to be there. It's pretty sad, man. And that's what I'm saying. Like, this is not sustainable success. Like, you keep on kicking the can down the road, then we're going to keep on having the same conversation in 2026 and 2027. But here's one thing that I want people to understand. If Mickey Loomis has conceded and said that the injuries are the reason why the New Orleans Saints weren't successful, and he bringing back all of these usual suspects when the Saints won that little 2-game winning streak that they had when they put up 90-plus points, if it don't pan out, he needs to be gone. Plain and simple. Like
but then you say that he's in the will of the owner, so he's not going anywhere.
Well, I tell you what.
Well,
he may not be going like from an executive role, Smitty. From an executive role, but as a general manager, they can step in and intervene and say, look, we need you to step down. Nobody is going to accept in 2026 this guy who is conceding that 2025 is going to be their year, just like 2024 should have been if it wasn't for the injuries. Nobody is going to buy that in 2026. So let him you got to let him go. Just like I felt with Dennis Allen. Okay, let him build his team the way he wanted to. So when he fall flat on his face, you don't have no choice but to blame nobody but Dennis Allen. He has nobody to blame but Mickey Loomis. And I hope that Gail Benson and Dennis Lauscher do what they did with Dennis Allen. They intervene and tell this guy to step down because he's killing his team, man.
Correct.
Now, fellas, before we log off, real quick, I just want to go person by person, and I want you guys to tell me if there's any free agents that you guys are still targeting heading into technically day one of free agency tomorrow. Clay, let's start with you. Anybody you want your Panthers to still target?
Yeah, well, I mean, right now, from a offensive standpoint, I'm looking at Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen are guys that looking at. Elijah Moore possibly is another wide receiver to bring in. McCold Hardman, something like that would be nice. I mean, I wouldn't be I thought about it. Should we bring back Deontay Johnson? I don't know. I had someone, should we bring him back? I don't know. I think that's a lost cause. I think a lot of Carolina Panthers fans are also on the Stephon Diggs train, just because of how he would fit in this offense. But from a wide receiver standpoint, that's some guys. I was also looking at possibly some linebackers possibly to bring in that are unsigned. I was looking at Tyrell Dotson was one guy that I was hoping maybe we might bring in. We need to add someone into this room. I think Kaiser White's still available. I don't know if he's signed anywhere yet. So again, there's some guys that I'd like to bring in from the linebacker standpoint as well. But again, I think at this point, Carolina is probably just going to fill some depth pieces. Maybe they might sign maybe 2 or 3 more guys and then probably start getting into the depth pieces. And then really, I think that where Carolina is going to hone in this kind of rebuild that we're going through is in this year's draft. So,
yeah, those are definitely some good ones. Smitty, what about you and your Falcons? Who are you targeting?
One guy I've been heavy on the last couple of years, but he keeps getting picked up somehow. Larry Ogunjobi, formerly of the Steelers. He's a 3-4 defensive end, and I still feel like we need that size up front, along with Zach Harrison and those guys. I could also say, like Clay said, Kaiser White. We still need help at linebacker, even though we signed Diablo today. But there's still guys out there, DJ Humphries, who could come in and play right tackle if need be. But yeah, those are the only 3 that I can think of off the top of my head.
Now, TJ, I know you don't really have a lot of money. You've made some signings that you probably already didn't have the money for, but is there anybody you want to see your Saints go after?
Man, I mean, I think they can look under the couch cushion somewhere and maybe pull out a little pocket change. But I mean, the only person I can just think of is just another cornerback. I mean, I'm looking at this list right now, basically affordable guys. Maybe like Tre'Davious White. I mean, he's had some injuries, but he's a veteran guy. Somebody like I don't know if Mike Hilton, the one that played for the Bengals, 31 years old, may not demand as much money as he once did. That they got to look for these couch cushion players, man. Like that's what it is, man. They basically exhausted some of their funds on getting Justin Reed. So you probably want to get yourself somebody that's manageable, that can be a bridge, so you can draft someone at that position. Like, I don't expect for the New Orleans Saints to go get Will Johnson. Even though I feel like if you look at the way that this team is structured now, you might want to get a cornerback. But I think that they just need to get somebody like Tre'Davious White, a Mike Hilton, somebody that's a seasoned veteran, somebody that knows what they're doing. I would say Asante Samuel Jr. if he hasn't been signed already. He has a rapport with Brandon Staley. He's been with the Chargers, so they kind of know one another. So that would probably just be the guy that would be wishful thinking. But those 3 cornerbacks,
13 million. So
yeah,
that's a no-go.
Yeah. I mean, look, they already moving things around, moving furniture around. So I'm pretty sure they can do it if they want to. But Tre'Davious White and Mike Hilton, reasonably priced cornerbacks that can get the job done.
Right.
Now, James, wrap us up here. Anybody you want to see your Buccaneers still target?
Oh God, plenty. I mean, Tyrell Dodson from the Dolphins is a big name. I like Jerome Baker from the Titans as kind of like maybe a veteran linebacker. There's a lot of other guys at that inside linebacker group. Cornerback, I mean, maybe you look at Rasul Douglas from the Bills. He could be a bit of an option. If they want to go out and get another edge rusher, like Josh Uche could be an interesting guy. Used to play for your Patriots, Colby.
Did
So,
met him at the Super Bowl.
see, there you go. I'm sure he's
Yeah,
a nice
great-
guy. You
great
can vouch
guy.
for him. So yeah. So
Yeah,
there you go.
maybe I'll hit him up. Be like, yo, James was just curious. Can you cut in the Bucks or low
How
end
much
deal,
you know?
veteran minimum?
Yeah, defensive line. I'd also like the Bucks to go out and maybe get a guy like Larry Ogunjobi. Malik Collins of the 49ers would be an interesting name as well. And also maybe like take a look at backup quarterback. There's a couple of interesting options that are out there. Kyle Trask is a free agent, so if you want to take a look at somebody who may be a fit for the Buccaneers system, maybe that's like a Teddy Bridgewater or a Cooper Rush, or maybe even like a Case Keenum or something. I wouldn't be mad about that.
You can always bring back Jameis.
Oh my God, could you guys imagine a locker room with Baker Mayfield and Jameis Winston? Insanity.
Jameis Winston's funny, man.
He's a funny dude.
He's a funny dude. I was at the Super Bowl, right? And I was like, I wanted to get an interview with this guy so bad, but he was working for down there. He was working for like Fox Sports or something like that. I was like, oh yeah, like he's one of us right now. He's a sportscaster right now. And bro was just asking the craziest questions. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just let bro cook. I'm not even gonna bother him. The funniest guy. I would have him in my locker room any day.
He
got a career out of football.
Yeah, he does.
And then finally, if they want to add a little bit of depth at receiver, like I don't know how much money these guys would get, but like I saw Marquez Valdez-Scantling do some cool stuff for the Saints. He could be an interesting veteran backup wide receiver. DJ Shark with the Chargers, if you want to bring back Sterling Shepard, maybe. And then also, like, I like Kadero Hodge of the Falcons. I thought that he did some interesting stuff too. Obviously, beat the Bucs in overtime.
He's a good special teams guy.
Yeah, so like, so really, that's kind of some of like the low key moves. Obviously, I'm not going to go out there and say, "Hey, dude, go get Joey Bosa," you know. But like, if they want to make some low key stuff, add a couple more guys that could give you some starting ability, I'd be happy with that.
All right, well, it looks like we got one more super chat before we log off for the day. Who Dat for Life Chris comes back here with a $5 donation. I mean, we talked about Underdog Fantasy sponsoring today's video. It might honestly be Chris that sponsored today's video. Says, tomatoes at Lena. I say you fake Southern because you barely reach the mansion Dixie. Was that bricks? Is that bricks? Bricks at the sucks because Mike Evans is a Mitch.
I think he means a word that rhymes with Mitch.
Yeah. Kind of picked up on that one.
Oh boy.
I should have had James read that one. I think it would have been funnier if I had him read it.
Right? Yeah.
I know for next time. Everyone that curses, we're gonna have James read.
I just googled that. So Mitch is the male variant of the word we all know. Yes.
Oh, is it really? I actually never knew that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Wow. You know what? Shout out for Chris teaching us something new every single day. Shout out to the Saints fans, man. I appreciate that. Y'all keeping me young. Y'all keeping me young. But hey, guys, look,
I finally agree with Chris on something.
Hey, see, there you go. Chris and Smitty are now friends. We made history here today on the NFC South Roundtable. But hey, guys, look, as always, we appreciate you so much for watching, kicking up back with us to talk about some of the latest moves here in the NFC South when it comes to free agency. Make sure on your way out, you guys do leave a big like on the video. Subscribe here to the NFC South Roundtable so that you can notified every single time we post, every single time we go live. And of course, make sure to subscribe to each of these guys' individual YouTube channels. Links in the description box below. Keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer. But until next time, guys, we appreciate you so much for watching. And of course, stay safe.